If you are consistently targeting a person, what's the medical term for it? Fuck around and find out. There is a copyright issue and a question regarding clip channels and fair use, which a lot of people want to answer very simply and definitively. And I want to too. But the legal reality is different from what I want to do or want it to be. And I'm going to say, as I've said many times, that I don't think copyright has quite caught up to the realities of social media, internet. Law usually lags around 10 years behind technology. And so, does that mean it's the opposite of what I want? No. No, but it just means the question isn't so damn simple. Let me briefly address fair use of clip channels. Clipping a long video down to a short video is not automatically transformative. Let me say it again. Clipping a long video down to a short video is not automatically transformative. People have gotten the wrong idea based on Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, versus Aquila Hughes, in that since he did not use specific commentary in the form of words, that his use of clipping a long video in 3 segments and mashing them together, that means that any clip is automatically transformative. It is not. Okay? It does not mean that it isn't transformative either. So don't mistake my words here and say that, oh, well, clipping a long video down to a short video isn't transformative. It's actually not a simple question. There are many, many, many factors that go into it. And transformative use is one of the 4 factors. And it weighs very heavily when it's transformative. But there are other factors involved in fair use, and there are other exceptions to copyright, like education, public interest, stuff like that. It's a complicated question. There are whole law practices dedicated to solving this question in each specific instance. All right. Now, let me say one thing here very clear that I think I might be partly to blame on this. I have given basically anyone free reign to clip my content. And I said, please just let me know as a courtesy. And I'm pretty okay with it. I don't copyright strike people. It's not because I can't or don't have a right to. It's because as a general practice, I think copyright striking ends up harming the creator more often than it ends up harming the copyright potential taker. I think it backfires. I think it's a bad practice. I talked about this when Uncivil Law was engaged in his copyright striking stuff. And I think that that did not work out very well for him. And, you know, I'm very happy that he retracted those copyright strikes. But just because I don't do it, and just because I give permission to everybody, does not mean that anybody else has given permission to anyone else. And it similarly doesn't mean that anyone else has to adopt the policy of not copyright striking just because I think that it's a bad idea. It's just my personal wisdom based on doing this for as long as I have. It's different than rights. There's another issue going on that I want to briefly address within this greater question. We'll get back to the fair use thing. The idea of a false or improper strike rests only on one question. Is the content justifiably copied? Fair use being one of those exceptions, for example, specific educational purposes or news purposes being another example. public content, stuff like that. No actual copyright ownership, any of those things. But do you have a copyright that is enforceable? That's the only question. If you have a different reason for doing it, like, I'm really pissed off at this person, I'm going to copyright strike them. The only question is, do you have a copyright that is enforceable? And is the video infringing on that? If it's yes, it doesn't matter the reason you do it. It's technically a valid strike. Does that mean that like people aren't going to mock you and make fun of you? No. But this is important to note for clip channels and for anyone else who borrows someone else's content and believes they're justified or not. You have to actually have the justification. And if you don't, it doesn't matter if you tell YouTube or anyone else that there's some other reason they did it. Well, they did it because of this. It doesn't matter. Do they have a valid copyright? And do you have an exception to their, do you have a valid reason for using the content or reproducing the content? If the answer is yes, followed by no, then you're fucked, man. Either way. So just because you think someone's doing it because their feelings are hurt or because they're mad at you doesn't mean that it's automatically invalid. And with that goes a difference between copyright and trademark. Trademark, you have to enforce trademark or your trademark can become diluted and eventually unprotectable. You have to protect your trademark. If you don't protect it long enough or in enough instances, you lose it. Copyright is not like that. Copyright, you have an unfettered right to waive and enforce copyright at your whimsy. Now, think about it this way. If you're a small channel and two people, like let's say you got 10,000 subs, two people steal your copyright. One's a creator, copyrighted work. One's a creator with 500 subs. And the other one is Mr. Beast. Are you going to copy strike Mr. Beast? No. Probably not. If it's identifiable that it's your video, you could largely profit from having someone like Mr. Beast grab your content. Now, he's really careful. He's got a whole fucking legal team and a crazy corporate mechanism, making sure they don't violate that. But you get the idea of the hypothetical. If a big person copies your stuff and it draws people in, that's great. Viva Fry may have committed copyright infringement when he clipped my stream of the Kyle Rittenhouse case, in which, we reacted, lawyers on the panel reacted, and it got like 4 million views on Twitter. But I gained something like 60,000 live viewers from that. It was extremely beneficial for Viva to do that to me. I wouldn't want to go after Viva on that. Even if I were someone who takes out, who did copyright strikes and stuff like that, I wouldn't want to do that to Viva because it's massively beneficial. I want that content to stay up, especially at the time. I don't want to DMCA that. I want it to stay there. I want it to get traction. I want that. It's another reason why I don't do copyright strikes generally, because usually, as long as someone's playing my video, I got a name up here, I got a name down here, I got this stupid face that you see. There's advertising involved. It boosts my reach potentially. And that potential means a lot to me. It means a lot more to me than a couple pennies. So with that said, you have a right to enforce or waive copyright for any reason, as long as, again, your enforcement of it would be valid. You don't have to. So all that is done. Let's talk about fair use on clips. The use of copyrighted work becomes fair use under a multiple set of factors. The most common one that we're talking about, especially in regards to clip channels, is transformative use. All right. That transformative use means to take a thing and through addition, subtraction, modification, make it into something that is different than the original. Different in character, different in message, different in some way. Parody, critique, commentary are common ways to get to fair use. You take a portion of something, the portion that you need, and you then criticize the artistic value of the thing created, the creative works of it, the parts where the copyright exists. So, choice of lighting, camera angles, commentary, writing, direction, um, acting quality if it's a produced piece like that. Merely adding commentary that does not transform the use is not actually transformative, which should be intuitive. But this comes out like this. If you take a thing that is shocking and you go, like, let's say there's a bullfight, right? And then someone throws a hand grenade into the matador and blows him up, and his bones and body parts go everywhere, right? Cool. And someone's, recording the event. They're paid to record the event and whatever. They're creating this thing. And someone then comes in and clips out hand grenade hits matador. Shocking. Well, yeah, that was fucking shocking. What does the commentary of that title, or even someone going, whoa, did you see that? He exploded. Well, yeah. Okay. What transformed about that work in that moment? Maybe you can argue there's some sort of transform. Maybe it was like there were no grenades coming or something. I don't know. But you have to have the context and the facts on each specific thing to determine fair use. There is no blanket rule. It's why it's so expensive. It's why it's so fact intensive. It's why it's so goddamn irritating. So again, commentary doesn't necessarily have to be vocalized. It could be words on a screen. It could be juxtaposing two separate clips together, right? One person does this, one person does this, or the same person does something different. Now you've got a hypocrisy, right? And iHypocrite does this type of stuff. So you show the hypocrisy right next to each other. That can be transformative fair use. Because you've now changed the nature of each works. Each works is not about their original purpose. Each work is about a contradictory hypocrisy to the other one, right? We get that? We understand? Hell, I'm pretty sure people have done that to me. They say, Nick said this here. He says this here. Hypocrisy. Bam. They're transformative views. You can also put that type of stuff in the title. Whoa, notice the hypocrisy. But if your title is merely like, this thing happened, and then it's the thing that happens and it's obvious, it's not there. Might not be there. And yet you could get a favorable judge. Really don't know. But all of that to say, fair use, transformative use has to be transformative, which really kind of seems intuitive, and yet it routinely is not. It's routinely not intuitive. And so I have advice for clip channels. It's not that difficult to make something transformative. It's not. But you do have to put in some of the work. You do have to come out and just protect yourself from this sort of thing. You have to do that. You have to protect yourself. And I think that one really decent example of this is to look at Law Nerd Clips. I think so. I think if you go to the Law Nerd Clips channel, you'll see that she adds stuff to videos. She grabs stuff from all over the place and puts it together. I don't know how people have like such autistic categorizations of things and are able to grab stuff from all over the fucking internet. I think she's pretty decent at that. Now, I don't usually check on clips about me because I give people permission to just do it. So I'm not like looking for it. I also wouldn't copy strike them anyway. There's one other element here, and I really am getting tired of talking about the subject, but there is a possibility that things are being done in harassing ways that don't involve copyright, and copyright is not the issue. And if that's the case, creators who think they're being harassed or whatever should utilize those sorts of flagging systems if they choose. Again, not something I recommend in general, but if they choose to do it, they should do it that way versus copyright. The reason people often rely on copyright is because it's easy. It's easy to do. Now, without really reading the chat, I see someone says Divinity did. Cool. There you go. Then she's fine, right? Nothing should be wrong with anything she did if she did everything correctly. That's the simple answer to it. What I think Divinity probably didn't do correctly is file appeals correctly. There's a specific way. I've done videos on this, on how you file appeals to copyright. I'm damn near flawless in my ability to get copyright undone. But here's the deal. One last thing to consider for everyone involved. If you make it a practice to go after someone, they will make clips of you, or if you're on the other side, copyright strike you, or do some other guidelines attack on you. If you are consistently targeting a person, what's the medical term for it? Fuck around and find out. And this is again why I try to stay away from drama. It's always going to come back in some ugly, escalating way. The fuck around and find out happens consistently in these scenarios. And I don't know enough about this drama. I've been told the story from different angles and different perspectives, and, people who support different people. And my God, is there little else I want to talk about at all. But there's a lot of room on YouTube to make someone find out when they fuck around. There is. So I just encourage people not to do that shit. Not to do that shit.